Chozo Ruins. Welcome back to more Let's Play Metroid Prime. Last time, we escaped the frigate and trailed Ridley here to Tallon IV after losing all of our upgrades. We tried to, fight the next boss, but unfortunately got very unlucky and were pushed into the acidic water and met a very quick demise. Normally, the boss isn't very hard, and luckily for us, there was a convenient save point showing you that even someone who knows how to play the game can still get unlucky and, it should warrant saving. Still, getting back there will be a cinch. Now, one bad thing about getting a game over is that it unfortunately undoes all of your scans. So if you went out of your way to scan things, especially new things, you need to do that again. But that's why it was a good thing I showed game overing now, as opposed to later when it really mattered. So, get our nice little scans here. And you gotta be a little careful to make sure you don't go on the bridge. There we go. But now we should be able to take on the Wasp Hive pretty darn easy. Again, we really just got unlucky and they shoved us in the acid, and unfortunately, there's only one way to get up. So if you fall where we fell, it's pretty much a game over regardless of what you do. Now this is also where the knowing how to strafe can be really helpful. After each segment of wasps, you can start shooting them out. If you're lucky, you can get rid of some of the wasps early and get rid of them before they can charge you. This is also a fight that shows the importance of the radar. This is pretty much going to be the most important use of the radar in the game, though there are plenty of other practical applications for it. It's just that this early fight, where it's one of the only tools you have, it turns out it's really darn useful. So, simply shoot the wasps as they stop, don't move too much, stay centered, and you should be totally fine. Again, we just got unlucky, and that's all there was to it sometimes. But that's why they gave you a save, isn't it? And with that, fight's over lickety-split. It's almost like I intended to fall in the acid and die to show the game over off. Admittedly, I didn't, so that was a real death, but hey, it is what it is. And now, we get the missile launcher. And thank goodness. The missile launcher acquired. Press Y to fire, press A to switch back to beams. Missiles can destroy some blast shields on doors. Additional data downloaded to inventory screen, which, luckily, we've already read. So, with that, we can scan the small access tunnel that leads back behind the wall. Width of the opening is approximately 1 meter in diameter. Thank you, game, for reading the thing I didn't want to read, because for one missile, we can get our first energy tank. This item permanently increases your maximum energy capacity by 100 units. An extremely useful item. So now, we have an extra energy bar represented by that little square pip up there. So not only did we effectively just double our starting health, but we've acquired some serious firepower. This is seriously going to help us. If you noticed, something just burrowed up above. We're gonna have some friends on the way back, aren't we? Otherwise, get rid of these poor little flies. There's really no reason not to kill them, though there are some rooms where they are useful. Otherwise, these nests that the war wasps come out of, should we get rid of them and then scan them? These are war wasp hives, primary war wasp dwellings, only vulnerable to heavy weaponry. War wasps build their homes over existing crevices, using whatever materials are close at hand. They carry building fragments back to the construction site with their forelegs and glue them into places with adhesives secreted from their abdomens. Adhesives secreted from their abdomens, my goodness. Don't know why I was tripping over that so much, but with heavy weaponry, such as a missile, you can destroy the hive and make it so they stop spawning. That is extremely useful. And now, in this room, we're going to learn another use for missiles. Stress points present in Brimstone Wall. A concussive blast may shatter it. By firing a missile, or a few to get rid of some of the enemies, we can reveal another missile expansion. So, not only did we double our health, we just doubled the amount of missiles we had, from 5 to 10. Very useful. Now notice, there are also little areas like this. Small tunnel leads back behind the wall, with the opening is approximately 1 meter in diameter. Then of course, we have these blast shields, which, with our missile, we can blow open and get a map station. We've downloaded the map for this area. We can use C to take a look, and of course, it'll be more than happy to show us everything going on. As we can see, this area is pretty darn big, and frankly, it's going to have almost all of our basic upgrades, which is pretty darn nice. Also, too, do these have different scans? No, they do not. Interesting. Now, notably, we will be back here later. One, to investigate that small tunnel, both in the back of the missile area, and to investigate the one we just saw. But in order to get to that one, we're going to need bombs in order to be able to jump with the bomb. So, or with the ball. So, as useful as it is to remember it, well, doesn't do you much good unless you have the upgrades. Still, with all that out of the way, save our game again. After all, even a seasoned player like me can still fall into a pit of acid and die. It's totally possible. No shame in it. After all, game traps are meant as traps. Now, something you can do for here, with your expanded energy, you can kind of just tank most enemies, especially on normal mode. On hard, you're going to have to be a lot more careful because these enemies really hurt. And as you can see, those little things do a lot of damage if you take a bunch of them all at once. But frankly, most enemies are so easy to deal with that you really won't struggle too much, admittedly. So don't worry about it. So long as you can press the A button even decently quick. I mean, I'm not mashing exactly too fast here, but yeah, most enemies, not that bad. This will change as you progress the game. Now coming back through the shrine door, now that we have missiles, of course, we should be able to find something that's extremely useful beyond these scarabs here. Annoying, but nothing we can't handle. Little ball opening. Would you look at that? The morph ball. Just what we need. But of course, nothing can be easy now, can it? If I were you, use your arm cannon to deal with all of these beetles. Save your missiles. Trust me, you're gonna want them. Because while missiles are effective on these guys, we just don't have enough of them to go around. So, may as well get rid of the fodder with a tried and true weapon. Because we got a big one. And now, as intimidating as it looks, this isn't really a boss quite like the war wasps were, and even they technically weren't a true boss because they didn't have a health bar, but they felt more like it than this guy. Otherwise, this is a plated beetle, well-armored burrowing insect, vulnerable only in the rear abdomen. Creature's thick cranial plating can repel frontal attacks. This gives it an advantage in combat, allowing it to make ramming attacks, only surfacing when it detects vibrations above. It then maneuvers itself so as it always faces its rival, keeping its exposed abdomen protected. So basically the whole gimmick is let it charge, fire 2 missiles, and that's all she wrote. It's a pretty simple enemy to deal with, though if you used all your missiles beforehand, didn't have any, or aren't good at dodging, well, you might struggle. Still, here it is. The ever-useful Morph Ball. Turns out, being able to get into small areas is really useful. And something else I will point out is because we don't have the Varia suit, our little trail is a different color. It's orange. So, it's kind of cool to know that that's the default color. Another nice detail for those of you who have been listening closely is that the music has changed. And although it will take the music a little bit of time to properly get going, it's darn good. Still, now that we have our Morph Ball back, we can keep moving forward. So remember how I said we would get stopped pretty quickly if we went above? Now, with the Morph Ball, we can continue this way. Because while I think the door lacked the plating that needed missiles, you would have gotten stopped by needing the Morph Ball. So now that we have both, it should be good to keep moving. Oh, I really missed that. Annoying. There we go. As you can see, free aiming is very useful in this game, so make sure you do it. Because sometimes, locking on to an enemy just isn't a great option. And see, with the Morph Ball's speed, you might even be able to dodge certain enemies. Trust me, you'll be using it often. And hey! Remember when I said those little pyrite bugs can be useful? Well, here's a great example of it. They help light up this room, which is filled to the brim with toxic water. Be careful, they can knock you into it too. Otherwise, we have some more Chozo lore. As we struggle with the great poison, something stirs at the edges of our vision. It is the hatchling Samus. We feel her across the void as she hunts the corrupted. Will our fates again be one? As our pride shatters, will prophecy become real? When all strength wanes from the Chozo, will it be the hatchling who fulfills our legacy? True sight eludes us, the poison gnaws at all vision, leaving seers blind and filled with despair. Truth's blessing may come too late. So even these Chozo knew of who Samus was, as evidenced by them mentioning her by name. Now, if we try to go this way, one, there's a bunch of toxic water, but shouldn't be anything too difficult to deal with if you get rid of the mushrooms. And notably, this part of the song always gave me chills as a kid. It's just so darn good. Terrain analysis complete. Toxin levels near 90% in local water supply. So yeah, even your little warning sensors telling you that that's more acid than it is water. And notice here, intense heat readings detected behind this door. Should you open it, you can see it's a giant pit of lava with no discernible way across, except for what looks to be a grapple point. You're going to have to come back to here another time once we, assumedly, get the grapple beam. So, keep it in mind for later. Otherwise, hello little bugs. Now, an interesting tip for platforming is if you hold the right shoulder button, your right bumper there, as you jump, usually, because you're already holding forward, you'll look down automatically to help you aim at platforms. This can be a super useful tip. Another one I've been doing is by using free aim, you can lock onto a position by then holding the left bumper and stay locked onto it. So if you need to keep a certain angle while you position or platform, that's a good way to do it. It's not something you might think to do, but trust me, it's really useful. And whoa. Yeah, looks like that toxin is doing some numbers here. Analysis suggests the presence of a runic symbol here. And of course, this thing. A new creature. Reaper Vine. Powerful rock-dwelling tentacle. A single eye upon the Reaper Vine keeps a constant vigil, but its vision is limited to 10 meters. A scythe-like appendage on its tip is honed to lethal sharpness. The Reaper Vine will swing this blade wildly at anything that enters its zone of perception. So yeah, shoot its eye, back into its tunnel it goes, and then you can move on pretty unimpeded. Open up that door for just a bit, and remember how it said there's a runic symbol here? Turns out, they weren't lying. This runic symbol has been activated. 4 runic symbols in this room must be activated. So unfortunately, we won't be able to activate all 4 of the runic symbols yet. And if you noticed, those worms have a red tip, which are acidic. So you gotta be careful. Otherwise, rather than continuing up, let's go down. Hello, Reaper Vine. Hey. Ugh, gosh darn it. So yeah. Those vines aren't really the danger themselves, it's more the danger of them pushing you into the acid. So if you can tell, the acid hurts very quickly. So, make sure to watch for those little holes in the wall. Luckily, because we have another energy tank, it's not as dangerous as it was, but they still hurt. Yeah, a lot of these early rooms are so nostalgic for me. I just have so many great memories of exploring here as a kid and looking at everything and being so impressed by everything. Otherwise, another save station. And hey, frankly, without the Varya suit and a giant area full of acid, I think it's rather warranted that we take the save. Especially after those war wasps pushed us into the acid and promptly gave us a game over. So if nothing else, just make sure you're saving your game decently often. Ooh, and you can probably hear it too. There's an item in this room. Admittedly, depending on your sound settings, it might be a little hard to hear it, but for me, I can hear it pretty well. Otherwise, toxicity levels critical. Contact with contaminated water is extremely hazardous. That which fouls the waters seeks the sun. The great poison comes from Tallon's core. Interesting. Assumedly some Chozo writing and lore. And wouldn't you know, although this wall isn't scannable, it looks like the other wall we blew up. Which will get us another missile expansion. Very useful. So, we're already back to our starting missile count, which is really great. 15, not a bad number, especially when you had 0. Also, Shriek Bats. They're going to be a bit hard to scan, but trust me, we will scan them. I just wanted to deal with them now. Hello, Reap Vine. We also have these little crates, which give us plenty of energy and item pickups. So if you're ever running low, make sure to keep your eye out for them. They're very useful. This runic symbol has been activated. 4 runic symbols in this room must be activated. So, as you can see, we're going to be dealing with a lot of runes coming up. Another runic symbol. And luckily, most of them aren't too hard to find. Sometimes they get really mean with where they hide them, but trust me, they're not that bad usually. But you gotta make sure you keep a vigilant eye, because they're all over the place. And as you can see with this room, these Reaper vines are kind of everywhere, so you need to be careful. Another big thing is if you're moving too quick and you go into a Reaper vine as it's pulling back into the wall, it can also pull you toward the wall or even push it away from it. It's kind of annoying. Ooh. This gate has been unlocked. Very nice. And hey. The charge beam. Yes, please. That is going to upgrade our firepower incredibly. As always, additional data has been downloaded. And here is the game trying to teach you something. There are way too many eyes here to warrant you just shooting them and walking past. Though admittedly, it's pretty easy to do that. What the game wants you to do is use your new toy. The charge beam can deliver enough of a payload to destroy these enemies. Notably, the missile can't. Some enemies are only vulnerable to charge beam, some are only vulnerable to missiles. You're gonna have to experiment and figure things out. Now obviously, there's also some lore here. Chozo script translated. We have returned to Tallon IV, born here against our will by a great cataclysm from the reaches of space. A meteor came, casting a dark shadow of debris over the land with the violence of its impact. Though we perceived this from beyond space and time, it was but a curiosity, a brief flare in the infinite march of the universe. But the meteor brought with it corruption. A great poison burst forth into the land, clawing at life with such violence that we were ripped from our peaceful state and find ourselves wandering as shadows of the mortal forms we left behind, searching for why we are here. So yeah, evidently, that great poison isn't exactly a friend. And it sounds like something from space brought it here. So whatever that is, rest assured, we'll be encountering and dealing with. So for now, there's not much for us to do other than to keep looking for upgrades and seeing what we can do to progress. Again, lucky for us, the Chozo were very considerate and left us all sorts of goodies all over. And here's where I'd recommend you get your Shriekbat entry. Morphology, Shriekbat. Territorial ceiling dweller, body temperature peaks at 121 centigrade. Shriekbats have high internal temperature, making them easy to spot with thermal imaging. They roost on cave ceilings while hunting for small prey. Fiercely territorial, they dive bomb anything that wanders near. Generally, Shriekbats are pretty much just another suicide enemy. So, keep that in mind, stay out of their way, and you should be A-okay. But they can catch you off guard and do a fair bit of damage, so keep it in mind. Otherwise, all these darn mushrooms here are quite good at impeding our progress. But that's what we have free aim for. And speaking of Shriekbats, they caught me so off guard, I stopped moving to, rather than be hit by them, fall into acid. Go figure. As you can see, although this game is in 3D, it still very much so has the DNA of a platformer in it. And honestly, well, hello and goodbye, Shriekbats. while it is still a platformer, I think it performs really well. And I mean, trust me, the initial summary of a platformer with tank controls normally doesn't sound very good. But honestly, I think this game does a really good job of it. So, I have really no complaints with the control scheme. And if you notice, it looks like the water here isn't totally, well, I guess corrupt or poisonous, which is intriguing. Now, admittedly, I think that's more or less an oversight, because it's all supposed to be poisonous for this area, but we've seen other areas that aren't, so maybe whatever the great poison is hasn't touched this area. But it certainly has touched here, that's for sure. And if we look up here, there's a new research entry. A lock system is engaged. Secure the area to unlock the door. And, well, based on all this poison, the water has shorted out this slot mechanism. It is inoperable. So as much as we would like to do things here, well, there's kind of not much for us as it stands. So, kill some shriek bats, get some missiles, and take a look around. Because we can't go that way, and we certainly can't go forward. So, I guess over here. This is also, too, where the map can come in handy as well. It'll show you places in blue that you haven't been to, which is really handy. Also, another thing you may have noticed there while shooting the shriek bats is that, well, hello. The bullets sometimes don't follow your reticle directly in the center, because normally when you shoot, they always aim about center. The game has a bit of an auto-aiming system, where if an enemy is on screen close enough to the center, Samus will automatically aim her cannon there and shoot the enemy without you having to really worry so much, which I think is really nice. Otherwise, what else is really nice are stone toads. They prey on creatures smaller than itself, vulnerable only from within. A stone toad is able to remain still for days. It preys upon creatures smaller than itself, inhaling them whole. Anything it finds undigestible, it regurgitates. Stone toads use their tusks as a last resort in combat. So yeah, although we can morph ball into his mouth, there's nothing for us that way. So, let's go through the morph ball hole. And, well, there's no way back now because, well, the morph ball can't jump. So, through here we go. And wouldn't you know it, another big fight. So, first things first, scan them. Mechanoid incinerator drone, programmed for high-temperature waste disposal. Device schematics indicate a high risk of malfunction when internal power core is damaged. Unit has minimal combat programming, but can defend itself if necessary. This drone's intense heat blasts compensate for its lack of battle prowess. And if you notice, there's a war wasp hive above it. So, most of dealing with this is a game of waiting. You can't really damage it right now. But, when it pokes its head up, blast it. And that'll prompt it to burn the hive. And spawn another new enemy. A unique one at that. You can only find this enemy here, so be sure to scan it. Morphology, barbed war wasp. Airborne insect with the ability to launch its stinger at prey. A highly aggressive member of the war wasp family, this insect can propel the tip of its stinger up to 20 meters. The stinger tips regrow seconds after launch and contain an acidic compound designed to pre-digest prey. So yeah, be careful because these guys are not friendly. Now, while this combat drone isn't exactly a friend, it's also not necessarily just an enemy either. It will hurt the war wasp if it hits them with its flame. So, frankly, if you can focus on taking out the ones that are annoying you and dodging its flames, you should be fine. this fight is kind of just a test in making sure you can designate where enemies are and working on evading. I think it's a very clever fight. So as you can see, while you do gotta juggle a fair bit, it's not that bad. And depending on the maneuvers it uses, you can jump over the flames, dodge them. It's a pretty cool fight, honestly. And sometimes, well, the war wasps will really trip you up. Ultimately, you probably just want to focus on the machine, but deal with the war wasps when you can. With enough punishment, it explodes. And weirdly enough, it has the Morph Ball Bomb. Which, hey, I ain't complaining. I'll take our bombs back. The Morph Ball Bomb has been acquired. Well, in Morph Ball, press A to drop a bomb. We've seen it before, we know how to use it. And right here, a structural weakness detected throughout wall. Or, well, structural weaknesses. So, bomb it, and you'll be given a nice little reward. Another missile expansion. There have been several areas we've already seen where the Morph Ball can gain items or even blow things up. So, now wouldn't be a terrible point in the game to go back to some of the areas that we've been to and get those items. Though, there will be points later on, even further still, that will be more optimal to get those. So, although we have a nice new upgrade, let's focus on the task at hand. Now, another interesting thing is in the remake, once you get Morph Ball bombs, I believe you also gain the ability to jump as the Morph Ball. Normally, in this game, should you press B, which is your normal jump button, nothing happens. The B button is later used for another upgrade you get, but it's not jumping. So, in the remake, they gave you the ability to jump, which I believe is in later games, but it's not in Metroid Prime 1's base game. So, a nice addition to the remake, but something we don't have. Anyways, here is a standard Morph Ball slot. This slot is active. Inserting the Morph Ball and detonating a bomb will usually cause these slots to send electrical impulses that can activate different types of devices. So, if it wasn't incredibly obvious, basic systems appear to be operational. Device should operate once power has been restored. And, wouldn't you know it, it looks like a sort of pumping station, wouldn't you say? And here's a whole bunch of nasty toxic water blocking our way to that door. So, next time we play Metroid Prime, we'll put our wonderful new Morph Ball Bomb to use and see just what lies beyond that door. As always, I'm Brett. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.